I know this isn't your typical rock and roll or guitar work you've been accustomed to hearing right here on the Rude Dog Show. This is Rudy Reyes on the Two Live Stews Radio Network. I don't have a lot of time with this young man. I know he's young. He's younger than I am. 'Cause I'm 44, and if you're not on his Instagram, you're missing out. This guy has probably one of the most dynamic Instagrams you'll probably find in the Western Hemisphere. Anyway, welcome to the Rude Dog Show, the Two Live Stews Radio Network. This is a special guest here, long time coming, a very special guest from you all know, perhaps watched him play for then the San Diego Chargers. Shawne Merriman may have retired from football, but in my mind, he will always be a Charger. Shawne, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining me here on the show. I appreciate your time. I know you don't have a lot of it, so we'll kind of get right to the point here. I know you're busy with your Lights Out event going on tomorrow, assisting Maryland youth working in direct relation with NASCAR. This is something I was not aware of. And yeah, I've been glued to your Instagram, but that doesn't mean I knew what was going on behind the scenes. You got a lot of stuff going on right now, including tomorrow's event in Dover at the International Speedway in Delaware to support this fantastic cause. How are you able to go directly to NASCAR?
Well, I've been a NASCAR fan for a long time, and 2008 they had me come out to the Grand Marshal of the race in Montana. So I've never always kind of hung around the sport for a long time, and fast forward about a year ago, I got a chance to meet Jesse and Woody, who's my driver the 36 car can history. And he started to talk to us, and he had some of the similar ideas and where he wanted to go with his career. He's one of the minorities, African-American drivers in NASCAR. So there was a lot of synergy there. We ended up working together. He's a great ambassador for Lights Out within the sport. And so we got some great event tomorrow. We're bringing out 100 kids from the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area to experience their first NASCAR event. I mean, this is going to be huge. We're taking them on the infield, introducing them to the drivers, and get us a spokesperson with the drivers, autograph sessions. It's going to be awesome for us. We can't wait to make that happen.
Yeah, neither can I. I'm actually kind of waiting to see what the actual turnout's going to be. And look, I know the NFL has their own version of what they do to help out the youth. They have their pre-football camps, things of that nature, and I'm sure you've been a part of that as well. But why was it important for you to get involved in wanting to help these young men and women have a person, an up-close view of what NASCAR racing is about?
Well, for me, NASCAR is a great sport, but I think it's a huge or part of diversity issue that the sport was lacking demographics. They come from Waco, from D.C. County, Maryland. And when I was growing up, I didn't have the opportunity to go to a NASCAR race. It wasn't until I became a three-time All-Pro, three-time Pro Bowl in the NFL that I had the opportunity to experience that. So what we're hoping to do is, kids in the city get an opportunity to go in the races and see how great the sport of NASCAR is.
Wow, you definitely have, again, your work is cut out for you. I don't have a ton of time with you. I wish I had a little bit more here. But for those that don't know, this is not a typical opportunity. Kids don't just get to walk up and shake a hand of a NASCAR, racer or anybody else for that matter as a part of NASCAR. Usually you see them from the stands and you have your popcorn and your hot dog, and that's about it. Similar trim as you find at a Major League Baseball park. But what are the ages of youth that will be attending this, and how were you able to really decide what the criteria was in order to select them to be on the drive?
Well, for those who don't know, some of these kids start driving in NASCAR or practicing when they're 9, 10, 11 years old. They've been driving for a long time. So that's the age that we start to look at kids in the city who might be interested to kind of grow a real following. We thought that was a great start for us because they still have an opportunity to get closer to the sport and grow when the sport grows more in those demographics. So, I just hope we get a big part of a bridge almost to some of these kids in the city and provide them opportunity to experience something this great.
Well, hopefully so. Hopefully this is something that becomes a trend, that most speedways, so I guess that leads me to the next question. I know Dover National Speedway is certainly a part of this. Is this something that's widespread? Are you going to each speedways? I mean, you have Pomona and you have of all these different racetracks across the country for that matter. What has your ploy been to them, or is this something that is going to be more local in the Maryland/Delaware area?
No, we're hoping to get this local in the country. What can you say? Right now, it's the perfect time for this. There's a lot of negativity going on, a lot of negativity, and something like this is brightens people's day to know that there are good things happening out here, and you don't have to do something to just dark shadow of all the bad negative things going on. And this will be a great day tomorrow for us, I know.
Definitely so. I was reading a news article quickly in regards to two Redskins players inside of a video game store and a video game console. I'm not going to name names, but a video game console that a parent kept telling the child, look, I can't get this. I can't do anything with this. You're just going to have to wait till another time where it's financially available for me to do. Two Redskins players bought this young man in Xbox for his birthday. Of course, the parent was flabbergasted and didn't know really who they were or what the point was behind it. But it was something that's very unselfish of them. I don't believe it was some type of unified statement to go off and do Robin Hood types of things. But I think that a lot of this is a lot of the goodness is being overlooked at by all the badness that's going on right now. If badness is a word, but when I look at organizations trying to make a difference, I mean, any individual can do so. What type of feedback have you received from other speedways and other parts of NASCAR that would be more than interested in making this almost a rudimentary thing to happen annually?
Well, it has been great for me because NASCAR has not only welcomed me in, but also has been very open to helping out the diversity cause and helping people who probably wouldn't have an opportunity to go in and be a part of an event or come to a track. And a lot of it is done. It's just about information. How do I get to a track? Where do I go? How much does it cost? How long is the day? What time do I show up? These things are a part of information. Getting into the kids who ordinarily wouldn't have a opportunity to even see.
Well, it's good to be given an opportunity, and again, not all these kids can have this opportunity to do something like it, but if this is widespread, and I really encourage businesses out there that are listening right now, take part of this. If NASCAR is opening their arms in a very wide way to bring in other entities to come in, you have absolutely nothing to lose by having them coming in and making this more mainstream. The NBA does this, the NFL does it, as I had mentioned, and I guess the next biggest question is this something that can be translated into, say, the PBR or maybe even the UFC?
Yeah, I think so. It's just really finding the link, right? You have to understand. I wouldn't necessarily call it the problem, but where are they falling short of doing something, right? Where are they falling short of the outreach? Where are they reaching out and outreach? They're getting directly to the people who should find out this information. And it's all about going about it the right way, and it takes time. That's one thing that I really try to talk to you about when you're doing something of this magnitude. If you're out there just trying to create a lane that's not there, nothing great happens overnight. It just takes a lot of work to persist. And also the help. I had a lot of help from that part to get something like this done.
Yeah, it takes a lot of working hands, a lot of working minds, everybody be on the same page and have the same exact goal. That's very hard to find, is the collaborative efforts, the collaborative minds to really put this all into motion. But you do have, speaking of motion, Lights Out Project, you have a clothing line to go right in accordance with tomorrow night's event, and it just so happens that you're a team owner of K&N West. So that kind of helps how you're trying to get this out there, and I think it's going to become even more widespread. I want to thank you very much. I know you're busy. I know you have another call. But I guess the last question I have for you is this. We're talking about how right now things in the NFL don't look very good. They were given a black eye by President Trump. What are your thoughts on that? Was it something that you felt should not have been said because he can't stay in his own lane?
Yeah, no question about it. Right now, there's especially more time than now. We have horrific, the hurricanes in Houston and down Puerto Rico and Florida down there. Those are the real issues, to be honest. Let's get real. Those are the real issues that you want the president to be attacking. Not attacking the NFL and damn sure not attacking the NFL players for keeping them on.
There you go. That's perfectly said. Well put from somebody who knows, ladies and gentlemen. Shawne Merriman, who I appreciate your time coming on with me. I know you're busy. I know you have things you have to do, but I definitely appreciate your time. Everybody should go. Anybody who's in Dover, Delaware, should go to the Dover International Speedway tomorrow night. What time should everybody show up, Shawne?
I'll be there at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll be doing autograph sessions, and also I'll be spending a lot of time with the drivers. Come out, meet everybody, and enjoy the day. It's going to be a great one.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, Shawne Merriman right here on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Life Stews Radio Network. Shawne, man, I appreciate your time. Thanks, and good luck in your endeavors. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. It's a good message to send to everybody, and I think this will be a huge success for you moving forward.
You got it, my man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Shawne. Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, that was Shawne Merriman, who is owner of K&N West. Now, again, I didn't know that he was a NASCAR guy, and only because I wasn't sure who he was. And of course, he played for the then San Diego Chargers, but that didn't tell me who he was. It didn't tell me what he was about. And now, obviously, his interest is NASCAR in a very big way, trying to make a movement known and a very positive message sent. And he said it probably better than anybody I've spoken or at least heard right about now. There are so many other things going on in this world that need attention to, that need to have more awareness made for. The water shortage, the electrical shortage going on in Puerto Rico right now is something that you have to really look at. That's the reality. The reality is not to get involved in the NFL when it's not your lane. I think that's one of the reasons why there's so much going on, to be straightforward, that the president doesn't know how to stay in his own lane, because from an entrepreneurial standpoint, he's always accustomed to do whatever he wants, when he wants, how he wants to do it, and this is an example of just that. So when I look at what's going on overall in the NFL, there are a lot bigger fish to fry here. Let's just call it what it is. And unless you realize these things are around you, you're probably wearing blinders on your eyeballs. This is Rudy Reyes. I wish I had more time with Shawne Merriman. I want to go into a little bit more detail about his clothing line, but you can go to a variety of places to really take a look at some of the things he has going on. Matter of fact, the 2017 fall collection of clothing will be available at Shoe City. Actually, it's available now, as well as in Baltimore and Washington, D.C. area. It's motivated by the initial success of children and designed to support the interest not only in the Lights Out brand, but in NASCAR as well. So you have to look at both entities and think to yourself, NASCAR getting involved with kids? Fantastic. It's going to have, he's going to have his work cut out for him, that's for sure. There at the event tomorrow, he's going to be signing thousands of autographs, I'm sure. Day of fun, there'll be food, activities. Shawne Merriman will be hosting it himself. There'll be a lot of organized games going on there. There's a lot of different counties involved in this process. Maryland, James Madison Middle School, Baltimore-based organization, Top Notch Kids with a Z. The drive is supported by donations from NASCAR and Dover. I think it's going to be a huge success. I really see this being something positive, being something fruitful, and being able to speak to kids who really need this kind of not only help, but to give them higher aspirations. Look, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't join NASCAR. That's the biggest mystique, I think, that's still going on. It's almost like a situation where you have somebody who's older, Dale Earnhardt, type guys, only the ones that have the white necks on. It's ridiculous. It's preposterous. Not valid, not validated at all, but of course, certainly something that you can look forward to in regards to what Shawne has going on. And of course, because he is based out of San Diego, California for so long, that's where Lights Out brand clothing definitely exists. And you can go to lightsoutbrand.com, get more information in regards to what he has available. You can always follow him at Shawne Merriman, as well as on Facebook and Instagram, and Lights Out Brand on Twitter is Lights Out Brand. So check it out. He's got some pretty cool looking clothes. The shirts and lots of other types of apparel will be available for purchase. Check it out. It's pretty good stuff. I definitely have nothing bad to say about it, and it's going to a really worthy cause. It's going to help these kids and get to where they want to be and in life now and in the future. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Life Stews Radio Network. Thank you for joining me. It's kind of lonely in the chat room here. I don't see anybody chatting around. Feel free to to hit me up. I'm on Facebook Live as well. I see some people peeking in and out, and I'm also live here on Spreaker. I got to take a quick commercial, but I'll be right back. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Live Stews Radio Network.
How would you like to make the impossible possible? With professional and personal needs by Envision for You Concierge. With an array of services for you, the professional. So professional athletes, celebrities, VIP and corporate executives, Envision for You strives to assist with travel, hotel, luxury car service, dinner and show reservations, VIP services, as well as consumer relations. Envision for You also offers mobile services, as well as organic tanning, massage therapy, hair and makeup, men's grooming, fashion stylist, appointment setting, and more. Envision for You Concierge. With nationwide services, 24/7, Envision for You will never hesitate to go the extra mile for your professional and personal needs. So call today, 323-300-4592, 323-300-4592, or visit online at envisionforyou.com.
Welcome back. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Live Stews Radio Network. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Feel free to chat with me right here on Spreaker. I am live. More related political sports talk. Can't believe I put those in the same sentence. But more rhetoric from Donald Trump. Good afternoon, Stephen. Feel free to chat away. Ask whatever questions you like, and we'll try to stay on target here. So good afternoon for that. I wanted to bring up the fact that Donald Trump himself has stated that NFL owners are afraid of their players. Now, I don't know that to be true. It sounds, again, another out-of-lane commentary from Donald Trump in relation to what his thoughts are in regards to owners being afraid of telling their players they cannot kneel. I think this is more rhetoric from Donald Trump. I think when you're talking about the ability for him to stay in his own lane, I think right now, you can honestly say it's a train wreck. His presidency is a train wreck. What he's saying is a train wreck. And how he's going about what he's doing is also a train wreck. Train wreck, car wreck, it's still a wreck. Everybody gets hurt, and there's nothing but casualties. Now, again, I'm not a political speaker, nor will I ever try to be a political speaker. But I will say this, and then we're going to move on from this, that when I believe that somebody who doesn't have any idea about what's going on in the NFL, that wants to put his nose in the NFL, and I'll defer to what Shawne Merriman said in regards to there are bigger things to do in the United States and beyond, in Puerto Rico and Maria and in Florida and in Houston. There's so many catastrophic things going on right now, not only in that capacity, but in the physical sense. We have Medicare that's being repealed and things of that nature. I'm not going to go into all that. This is a sports show. This isn't a politics show. But I will say this, and then I'm just going to sum it up and call it a day. The president needs to stay in his own lane, do his own thing, handle country issues, because the NFL is not a country issue. It's not a United States issue. Not even when they kneel is it a United States issue. It's a personal issue, a personal choice. If their employer says go ahead and do what you have to do, then that's what they're going to do. Period. End of story. There's no argument. There's nobody who can say otherwise. That's just the way it is. Feel free to chat with me. I'm right here on Spreaker. I am live. And of course, it's a tad bit lonely in this room, so let's see if we can liven it up here. Okay, you're working on something here. I don't know what exactly, but we're working on something. Maybe cooking with gasoline, perhaps. Or maybe not. Depends on how you look at it. So a lot of news in the NFL going on right about now. Oh, I want to let everybody know, and please recall this. Set your markers. I'm going to send an event invite out for Brandon Marshall, a linebacker for the Denver Broncos, thanks to a constituent of mine who put me in touch with him. And it's kind of interesting. Whenever I think of the word Brandon Marshall, I think of wide receiver, right? You think of a guy who's going out to capture the ball, and, you know, the guy who's in New York not being utilized with the Giants efficiently and effectively. But this is a Brandon Marshall who's a linebacker for the Denver Broncos. So make sure you stay tuned for that on Tuesday of next week. It's going to be a great show. Going to have a lot of good stuff. And come to think of it, I remember interviewing Shaquille Barrett and Justin Simmons. Now I'll have Brandon Marshall. Kind of interesting. There was an article that Mike Chiari was talking about from the Bleacher Report. I have to give credit to this particular article because it kind of gives me some type of rough outline or rough guesstimate as to whether or not, in regards to where Colin Kaepernick is right about. Now, I know it's odd. I know it's not something that everybody's not talking about. Everybody says, well, look, Colin Kaepernick started this whole kneeling thing. Okay, perhaps he did. Maybe he was a trendsetter. Is it good? Is it bad? Everybody's entitled to their opinion here. But you look at a guy like Brandon Marshall, who stated yesterday, in fact, that his former college teammate at Nevada, he said the dude's in shape, he's yoked. Actually, he's so strong, he's ready to go. He told me he's been working out, and when I talked to him, he said he's just waiting for a call, and that's the next step. Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here in regards to that phone call. Question is, who's going to call him? What team in the NFL right now that's offering in the quarterback position enough? I'm not talking Jacoby Brissett in Indianapolis because he's playing absolutely fantastic ball. And, of course, now Andrew Luck out again another week. If I was in Indianapolis, I'd cut my losses and call it a day. Jacoby Brissett seems to have it. He's getting more reps, more familiar, more comfortable, and executing on every single down. That's what you want from a quarterback. Colin Kaepernick, on the other hand, because of him coming back into the NFL, or trying to make it into the NFL rather, seems to find himself on the outside looking in and continues to look in. Maybe he's looking through binoculars, rose-colored glasses. But that phone call that he continues to ask for inadvertently and indirectly may not even happen. Why? Because right now I don't see any NFL team who's having that much of an issue with the quarterback situation. Maybe in Denver. No? Okay. Maybe in Cleveland. They don't have much of a backup there to Deshaun Watson. No? Okay, fair enough. So I think when you look at Colin Kaepernick and the fact that he states that there are currently poor quarterbacks playing around the league, he said that the Bears should sign him. Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. First of all, they have Mike Glennon. Secondly, they have Mike Trubisky. Mike Glennon showing up against the Steelers. Yeah, I know you're seeing the shirt I'm wearing right now because, I'm a fan, but I support my team. But at the same token, I know when they're playing bad, and I call it like it is. And right now, I'm calling Colin Kaepernick out to say, if you want that phone call, don't wait for them. You make the phone call. You execute it. You want to get into the NFL, stop having other people talk for you and talk for yourself. You'll find better results, better reaction, more honest reaction, more open reaction to you making the inquiry, not the other way around. So stop trying to step on other people's coattails and let them do the work for you. You need to do the work. You have to do the work. So do the work on that aspect as well, not just working out, pumping iron, doing your cardio, getting in the pool, doing water polo, using free weights and what have you. Make some calls. You want to get into the NFL, have your agent make those calls, or you call them yourself. I think by hiding behind this iron wall is preventing yourself from being seen and noticed. No, people are taking notice of it. And I'll even go on a limb to suggest that an NFL team would want to grab you just to have you on their roster. Why? Because you never know what can happen. This is a not-for-long league. You get hit, you're down, you're gone, that's it, and a story. And now they need somebody else to follow suit to take over that position in order to keep them winning, to keep them moving the chains, moving them in the right direction. Biggest question is whether or not, Colin, you're ready to go. And I mean that personally, physically, and mentally. But I'll be honest with you, when I look at Colin Kaepernick and I look at the the battle he's in right now and the uphill battle that he's climbing can find himself still sitting out of the entire 2017 NFL season. We're already into week 4. So something either has to happen very drastically on an NFL team, or he's going to find himself in a situation where he's going to be waiting till next year. And unfortunately, that could even extend his time if he doesn't find a way to get onto an NFL roster a lot sooner than later. Let's start with some news around the NFL. Garrett is back. Myles Garrett, for the Cleveland Browns. He's ready to go. He did miss it. He had an issue with his ankles, a high ankle sprain. He's working his way toward getting back into that Browns defensive pass rush system that really has seen some pass rush. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you, they look a lot better. And just as a side note, I think I may have mentioned this before on the show, but the Cleveland Browns will piggyback and jump off of the Cincinnati Bengals as far as the divisional record. The question is whether or not they'll get a win before Cincinnati does. And I think Cincinnati's on a downward spiral. Despite that first throw from A.J. Dalton to, from Andy Dalton to A.J. Green in the end zone, I think there's a lot to be desired in that quarterback to wide receiver dichotomy. You may not find that a lot in the NFL, and they've connected for a lot of receptions for touchdowns, but that's only one. And when I look at what the Bengals are facing, they have a pretty tough road ahead of them. Whether or not they can get it done, either on the road or at home, they lost at home, they lost on the road. A lot of questions. A lot of questions for them is all. And, of course, Adrian Peterson, he ends up tweaking his knee in practice, but seems to be finding a way back into it. The biggest question is whether or not the Saints offense is the place for him. I know he wants to get back in the NFL, so he took the position. He said, okay, I'm not starter material. Run me in a 2-back system there with Drew Brees and behind Eddie Lacy, and then we'll talk. Unfortunately, and you're right, it's a very tough schedule for the Bengals, Stephen. Very, very good input. Thank you for that. But a look at Adrian Peterson. I don't know that he fits this system as well as I would have hoped. And I know that Drew Brees is hoping that. I know Sean Payton is hoping that. I know that the reason why they grabbed this guy to begin with, Adrian Peterson, is because he needed a home and they felt that they could do something with him. So far, I haven't seen the Saints do much in a running game other than Drew Brees, again, running and gunning just like he did last year, 40-plus points just to stay competitive with a not-so-good secondary. Good news for the Saints, they did pull somebody else in off of their practice squad roster, I believe, to start in the secondary. Somebody who's had a little more experience than the guys they have back there right now. But, of course, don't forget, they did release Roy LaFrance, somebody I had here right on the Rude Dog Show, talking about the likelihood of him being able to start in a Saints uniform in the NFL. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen. I don't know. I don't know that will be the case, but I do know that when you look at Adrian Peterson historically and what he's done on the ground, he's got a lot of miles on him. Whether or not the Saints just have him on the roster just in case Eddie Lacy goes down, nobody knows. Or even worst case scenario, Eddie Lacy ends up gaining too much weight. He weighs in, he gets fined. He starts going down the same negative habits that he did when he was in Green Bay. I don't know how that works or if that will be the case. And I think Eddie Lacy's worked out hard enough to know what he needs to do and how he needs to do it in order to stay fit and stay athletic in the NFL. Chargers news as if losing badly at home, and everybody's asking about why the Chargers deserve to be in Los Angeles. Well, they don't. They didn't deserve to be in San Diego. Year after year after year, this team continues to be absolutely horrific on practically every level, thanks in due part to not wanting to make the change. And I'm talking about front office making changes and getting personnel in there that really want to play, that want to win. I don't know that Phillip Rivers can certainly do that. He had a lot of miscues in the last matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are pick 6 happy, but good news for them from at least a ground game perspective. Melvin Gordon will play on Sunday against the Eagles. I don't know how well that will work. Eagles have been stymieing offensive run games for quite some time. Headed into week 4, didn't allow a lot of yards on the ground by any team, especially New York Giants, who even themselves don't have a very solid running game. So it makes you really wonder what the Chargers plan on doing, how they plan on utilizing Gordon in the backfield. Melvin Gordon's good, but he's not great because of the offensive play, because of quarterback play, because of overall team play, and him not being able to become reacclimated to that system. So it just makes you wonder exactly how they'll utilize Gordon. Will he be efficient? Will he be effective? Well, nobody knows. But of course, some of the bigger stories going on in the NFL right now. Todd Gurley explosion as the Los Angeles Rams nearly lost a big one in San Francisco against the 49ers with Brian Hoyer underneath center. Todd Gurley, very active guy, a very fit guy. I was looking for a breakout game from him, and I think he had one. I really honestly do. He was comfortable with the system, becoming more comfortable with Jared Goff. Now that Sean McVay is really kind of leveling out and finding out who Jared Goff really is, and I think it's more of a finding process for Jared Goff as well in relation to what he can do on that offensive line. But you can't count on a guy like Kareem Hunt. We were talking about that yesterday on the Rude Dog Show, talking about how he's very explosive, more yards from scrimmage than any player in the NFL since 1970. So you look at a guy like him, you think to yourself, man, is he going to be something? And you're right, he is. He definitely is. Need to take a quick commercial break. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the 2 Live Stews Radio Network. Chat with me. I'm live on Facebook. I am also live on Spreaker. Come check me out. Throw me a follow at Rude Dog Reyes on Twitter. I'll be right back.
How would you like to make the impossible possible? With professional and personal needs by Envision for You Concierge. With an array of services for you, the professional. So professional athletes, celebrities, VIP and corporate executives, Envision for You strives to assist with travel, hotel, luxury car service, dinner and show reservations, VIP services, as well as consumer relations. Envision for You also offers mobile services, as well as organic tanning, massage therapy, hair and makeup, men's grooming, fashion stylist, appointment setting, and more. Envision for You Concierge. With nationwide services, 24/7, Envision for You will never hesitate to go the extra mile for your professional and personal needs. So call today, 323-300-4592, 323-300-4592, or visit online at envisionforyou.com.
Welcome back to the Rude Dog Show. This is Rudy Reyes. I know everybody's looking towards this Thursday night matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. I know it's at Lambeau. I get it. Lambeau's a very difficult place to play. I was talking about that on 1060. And I look at what's going on between those two teams. I'm not going to say that by any stretch of the imagination do you find out that Aaron Rodgers is the man or is doing absolutely fantastic. But I'll say this. When you look at Aaron Rodgers and you look at what he's done historically, he had some pretty solid passes downfield, one to Jeff Janis, one to just a variety of other guys. And, of course, Jordan plays a part of that in the running game as well as in the passing game. But I look at the Green Bay Packers and I think to myself, man, this is definitely something else. But to really look out for this game, to put this game into perspective, Browns are coming off a very heightened win against the Steelers. Not that it was a fantastic win, but it was a touchdown and a field goal. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. The problem is the Steelers couldn't stop the run, for one. Secondly, they couldn't defend the pass, and that's really not a good thing. And you can't look at this as being a super negative. And here's why. Bears defense coming into Soldier Field playing against the Steelers, they were on a life preserver. They were floating in on a life preserver into Soldier Field, not doing very good. Glennon coming off a 2-interception game against his former team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think to myself, where's Glennon at? Does this do more for him from an offensive standpoint, knowing he can stay in the pocket and make the throws because of the protection around him? I'm more concerned about his club-handed center who had a cast on his hand, preventing him from snapping the ball in a timely manner. Will they have issues on the offensive line? More likely. But again, without Mike Daniels in the defensive tackle position for the Green Bay Packers, you're going to find yourselves without a pure pass rusher. And that's what Mike Daniels does well, and he plays well in coverage in addition. So I think this is going to be a very even scoring event. In other words, it's going to be low. 7, 6, 14, 13. You're not going to probably get into the 20s in this game because defensively, they didn't allow hardly any runs at all from the Steelers. I think it was only 65, maybe 70 yards of total running yardage on the Bears. And I look for them to do the very same thing. Why? Because the Packers don't have, again, I guess it's a very similar issue. You can use Ty Montgomery in a couple of ways. First of all, you can use him in the flat. You can use him as a running back. Very dynamic that way. Whether or not you can fool the Bears into thinking that he's going to run it, which in fact can be play action for Aaron Rodgers. And because he's such a time manager, I think last year when you look at Aaron Rodgers, much better from an efficiency standpoint, at least looking and not having to be called for delay of game. The delay of game penalties will kill you. You have too many of those. You set yourself back in negative field position. Now you're 3rd and 23, 3rd and 25, 2nd and 21. You put yourself back in a negative situation. It doesn't allow you to flow down the field. But I think when you look at this game, there's a lot more parity involved in both sides of the ball than one might expect. Why? Because Mike Glenn, again, coming off that high. But I feel that if he falters, you're still going to have the same rhythm with Mitch Trubisky. Will he start? Probably not. Will he come in the second half of the game if for some reason the Bears want to respectably pick themselves up off of the carpet? I foresee it. I really do. But I look at John Fox and I think to myself, man, this guy's, he's doing something out of nothing. And I don't mean that he doesn't have anything, but I mean that he's doing a lot more with a lot less, similar to that of a lot of coaches in the NFL, especially the defensive-minded ones. Now, we're not talking about Mike Tomlin. We already know what happened between the Chicago Bears and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not going to talk about it again today, but I will tell you this. When you look at this Bears team, I don't think that they're quite there yet. I think they will be. It could be in a couple more games if they continue to play. If they can win, I'm not saying they will, but if they can win in Green Bay against the Packers, it makes you wonder, where do they stand in the NFC North? Right? Minnesota Vikings are on a roll. They still don't know whether or not they'll have their quarterback yet ready to go. Case Keenum looking good in a Minnesota uniform. I'll be honest with you, I've seen him making some seriously, dagger throws. And, of course, you can never take anything lightly out of that secondary. And, of course, defensively for the Minnesota Vikings, also very, very tough. And I think this division is going to boil down to the fitter of the teams, meaning that more defensive efforts, turn the ball over, interceptions. Defense wins championships, ladies and gentlemen. Don't make any mistake about that. And I foresee that being the very same case in this very tough, physical NFC North. Now, when you look at the AFC North, not as hard-hitting as the NFC North. There's always some type of parity when you're talking about who's better defensively, who's better offensively. Can you do more defensively? Well, the Broncos did it, even when they had Peyton Manning under center. But I really like what they're doing right now. Minnesota Vikings firing on all cylinders. Case Keenum, again, reps, I've talked about it here on this show many times before. You get a guy under center who's feeling fluent, who can make the throws, he can make the check downs, he can drop bombs on you. Be aware of the very long 30-yard pass from Mike Glennon. I think you have yourself a very solid and efficient offensive system with John Fox making the ultimate plays on the other side of the ball defensively, because that's what he does. That's who he is. That's what John Fox did in Denver as well. So a lot of things going on in the NFL, a lot of situations. But again, going back to this Chicago Bears-Packers game, I think you're going to find out that the Green Bay Packers are going to give everything they have to the Chicago Bears. Let's go through, shall we, the rundown of games. Of course, tonight's game, Bears match up 1-2 at Lambeau against the Packers, who are at 2-1. New Orleans 1-2. Miami 1-1. Those are very easily 1 o'clock games. No, I'm sorry. New Orleans and Miami, they're in London, so it's a 6:30 game there, a.m. Pacific time. Buffalo and Atlanta. Buffalo at 2-1. Atlanta 3-0. That's a 1 o'clock game. Pittsburgh at Baltimore, both 2-1, fighting for the AFC North, not once, but they'll face each other again later on in the season. You'll have to check your calendars. Go to therudogshow.com. Go to my page, the Steelers calendar. Yes, I have a calendar there showing which Steelers. Hey, I'm a fan. I'm going to have it there. It's my website. I do what I do. You'll see the Cincinnati Bengals taking on, and both winless, by the way, against the Cleveland Browns. LA Rams at 2-1 taking on the Dallas Cowboys in a rematch. Tennessee 2-1. Houston 1-2. Looking to get Deshaun Watson on the right foot. Tennessee winning a very solid game in their last outing. Detroit 2-1. Minnesota 2-1. This is going to be a tough pick. This is in Minnesota. I don't know that the Detroit Lions will get enough offensively, create enough offense in order to keep that Minnesota defense honest. I'm going to have to take Minnesota in that matchup. Carolina coming off a horrible loss against the New Orleans Saints, 2-1. I look for New England to take care of business here, go up 3-1. Jacksonville Jaguars, who look absolutely fantastic following that 44-7 blowout of Baltimore at Wembley Stadium in London. And I look for Jacksonville to get it done against the New York Jets. San Francisco 49ers 0-3. Their third 0-3 start, I think, in the last 5 seasons against Arizona, who came off a horrible loss at home in the Valley of the Sun against the Dallas Cowboys. Arizona drops 1-2. I'm going to have to pick Arizona to win that day. There's too much Carson Palmer, and he gets it done in the clinch. He's getting older, so you really have to ask yourself, how much time does he really have? Father Time's undefeated. Remember that. Philadelphia taking on the Los Angeles Chargers 2-1. I don't know that there's even a contest here, but I think that Philadelphia will end up taking it to the Chargers in a very, very big way. I look for Philadelphia to get Carson Wentz off on the right foot. Give Jake Elliott another 61-yarder, shall we? You just give him another 61-yarder, you'll find her, Yeah, there you go. That's for you, Jake Elliott. You definitely deserve that one. In a game-winner walk-off kick. I guess you're using baseball terms in football now on a walk-off kick. That's interesting. That's very interesting. New York Football Giants taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. New York Giants 0-3. Lost a horrible, horrible game. 0-3, and there's a lot of reasons why. I don't think the New York Giants really have anything going on this season. Now 0-3. Biggest question is whether or not you question Eli Manning in regards to his toughness, what he can do under center, and how he can get you where you need to be, and that's in the win column. 0-3 is not where you want to be. Tampa Bay 1-1. I think Tampa Bay will end up going 2-1 after they take care of business against the New York Football Giants. Now, this is an AFC matchup. This could be the game of the week. There's a lot of reasons behind that. You see the Oakland Raiders. You have Derek Carr just really getting it done. Not very much so against Washington Redskins team that basically just stuck to their guns and so much predictability offensively. And I think the Redskins really had their number in that one. Again, last week was all about the road teams losing on the road. Not losing at home, losing on the road. That's the saddest thing you can see from any NFL team, especially if you're trying to stay perfect. Of course, there's only two. That's the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Falcons. I can't believe Kansas City is still 3-0, but they are. They are. They definitely are. You look at the Oakland Raiders, you look at the Denver Broncos. Again, Tuesday, as a reminder, set your calendar, set your event, turn on your alarm clock, make sure your coffee is ready to go. You're going to need it at 1 p.m. Pacific time, as I will have a fantastic Denver Bronco guest on the show, and Brandon Marshall, linebacker for the Denver Broncos. I'm looking forward to talking to you. Looking forward to talking to him. Should be a fantastic conversation with Brandon Marshall. Make sure you tune in for that one as well. And just to give everybody else a real brief look in regards to what other remainder games are going on right now, they're going to find Indianapolis at 1-2. Again, I was talking about earlier how Jacoby Brissett looking very good outside of the pocket, looking good inside of the pocket, making his presence known. And again, I'm trying not to beat a dead horse here, but I look at the quarterback position there in Indianapolis, and if there's any place that could fit someone like Colin Kaepernick, it would be Indianapolis. They've been known to take risks in ownership, doing crazy things on social media and all kinds of other wacky things. But I look for Colin Kaepernick to be a very solid addition in Indianapolis. Look, Indy, go grab Cap. Grab Cap. This would be a hashtag. Grab Cap. Not the other word, but grab Cap. Cap. See how I said it? Cap. Go grab Kaepernick. Washington will take on the 3-0 Kansas City Chiefs. This could be a secondary game of the week. I know I have 2 games of the week, but when you're able to knock off an AFC West opponent in the Oakland Raiders, it makes you wonder if they can take care of business against a very unpredictable Alex Smith-led Kansas City Chiefs squad with Kareem Hunt. And I can't speak enough about Kareem Hunt. The guy is solid. He's got wheels. He has speed. He has everything he needs to get it done, and currently leading the NFL since 1970 in rushing yards. And fantastic. Thank you, Ben, for tuning in. I do appreciate it. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Life Stews Radio Network. I'm going to take a quick commercial break. It's about $1.07 long. I'll be right back.
How would you like to make the impossible possible? With professional and personal needs by Envision for You Concierge. With an array of services for you, the professional. So professional athletes, celebrities, VIP and corporate executives, Envision for You strives to assist with travel, hotel, luxury car service, dinner and show reservations, VIP services, as well as consumer relations. Envision for You also offers mobile services, as well as organic tanning, massage therapy, hair and makeup, men's grooming, fashion stylists, appointment setting, and more. Envision for You Concierge, with nationwide services, 24/7. Envision for You will never hesitate to go the extra mile for your professional and personal needs. So call today, 323-300-4592, 323-300-4592, or visit online at envisionforyou.com.
Welcome back. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Live Stews Radio Network. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I see some chat action going on here. And you know what, Big L, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. He'd be a great fit. He's dynamic. It's a 1-2 punch. If you don't have Brissett, you have Kaepernick. I think Kaepernick is ready to go. I think a good spot for him would be in Indianapolis. He could revive his career. He could do so many more things and really put the screws to other teams in that AFC South division. Whether or not they can keep up with the Joneses or whether the Jacksons in Jacksonville and the Jaguars remains to be seen. I like to see Indianapolis really get something done here in relation to in relation to being able to execute and being able to not only find a way to win, but if you have an additional quarterback that has already proven that he can win, in Colin Kaepernick, then why not grab him? Why not grab him? I'm not saying that the quarterback position there is in dire straits, but if you want somebody as a good backup who's willing to take that backup spot, I think Colin Kaepernick would be your best choice. There's not exactly a ton of quarterbacks on the list of being able to be picked up that are remotely good right about now, and I think Colin Kaepernick would be a very solid grab for the Indianapolis Colts. Speaking of the Colts, or at least the NFL, and I think one of the reasons why the Baltimore Ravens is struggling so much, and of course they take on the Pittsburgh Steelers at M&T Stadium this Sunday, and I think that I don't know that Flacco is in reality mode, because he claims that they were thinking that they were getting ahead of themselves. All of a sudden, he hasn't played for 3 weeks, hasn't played well since he started. I think there's a quarterback position to be played, and I don't think it's Ryan Mallett. I really don't think it's Ryan Mallett at all. Again, another quarterback situation you're 0-3, or 2-1 rather, what do? Do you rely on the defense that's banged up, or do you put your football and your franchise in the hands of somebody who can get it done? I don't think it's Flacco. I think another good situation as a backup plan for Colin Kaepernick is to get into Baltimore. Of course, I don't know whether or not the Steelers want to face him, but in all fairness, I don't think anybody wants to face the Baltimore Ravens with a very high, potent, powered offense. They need to get a running game going there as well. Tariq West, not the guy there. They need a solid running game. They need a better offensive line. They lost a lot of guys, just like Cincinnati did. And, of course, they're getting older. I mean, look, offensive linemen aren't growing on trees. Running backs, there are plenty of them. They're leaving the NFL or leaving for the NFL in 2017 at the end of the year. I mean, unless you want to tank, right, unless you're a team that wants to tank right now, you get the first overall pick, who do you grab? Darnold? Sam Darnold out of USC? Maybe. If you're the Jets? If I was Sam Darnold, I wouldn't want to go play for the Jets. Why? Because Todd Bowles doesn't know what he's doing with the quarterbacks. He hasn't. This is the time he arrived there in New York. I think to myself, and when I look at the Jets, I think to myself, they have a decent offensive line. They don't have a great quarterback situation there, but when you look at the New York Jets, the answer there is not necessarily a quarterback. If I was the Jets, I would draft down, grab some other offensive linemen. I'd grab some D lineman guys and go after a quarterback in maybe the 4th or 5th round. That's what I would do. Because it's not always about getting the first overall pick. It's not always the best pick. I mean, it's not always getting the best available player. And that's all it boils down to. It's getting the players that will work for you, not just lock it all up in one guy. Make sure that you apply it to more than one guy. Make it apply to 3 or 4 different guys in order to help make the system work. And I think it's a rebuilding year for the New York Jets, a rebuilding time for the 49ers, a rebuilding time for the Browns. And again, I don't know if the Browns could ever stop rebuilding, considering what they're currently going through in relation to 0-3. So again, I think they're just missing. I think the Browns are missing just a few more pieces. And I think that once you get the guys, the coaches, in position to help acclimate these guys, to really give them the sense of ownership and really own what they do and get them to own what they do, you have a lot better chances of not only winning in this league, which is a very tough thing to do, as you already figured out, between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. Winning is a very tough thing to do in the NFL, especially if you are being outcoached, you're being outplayed, you're being out-schemed. I think one of the issues people are having right now with the Steelers, we're sticking with the AFC North here, is that Todd Haley's not calling the plays that he needs to call. And I think that's one of the reasons is it's too vanilla. I think the breakdown and the lack of complexity from an offensive standpoint is one of the reasons why the Steelers are not getting it done on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not saying that they don't know how to make play calls. I am not in that position. That's way above my pay grade. But I look at Todd Haley, I look at the lack of fluency that he has with Ben Roethlisberger and the other way around. Don't forget, Todd Haley is supposed to call the plays. Ben Roethlisberger is supposed to execute the plays. But you can put the play out there without a guy knowing how to execute, and then you have incompletions. Then you have turnovers. Then you have all types of sloppy quarterback play, and I think Ben Roethlisberger right now is playing pretty sloppy. You've heard of Sloppy Joe. This is Sloppy Ben. I don't think anybody wants Sloppy Ben. They want the Ben Rice, right? The Uncle Ben's Rice. I think that's what they're really looking for. The ability to have cohesion, to play efficiently, get out of the pocket, scramble. I don't know that Ben Roethlisberger can scramble any more than he already has. And Uncle Ben. No, there's no Auntie Ben. But you want to be Papa Ben. You want to play like your Papa Ben, getting things right, doing things effectively. I think the Steelers can pull it off. Even though it's in M&T, even though it's in Baltimore, I think the Steelers can certainly get it done. Biggest question, whether or not Ben Roethlisberger wants to play like he wants to get it done. I really don't believe that Roethlisberger has a sense of urgency between the timing of his throws, his checkdowns, things of that nature. It's almost as if he wants to go for the home run ball every single time. And it doesn't work that way. It will never work that way. You can't just go for the bomb every single time. You have to go through, yeah, it's a rivalry game. It always will be a rivalry game. You could take your gloves off and say, you know what? Forget the records. Let's get down and dirty. It's going to be a game of ownership at the line. It's going to be a battle in the trenches. And both these teams know each other very well. They're going to smack each other in the mouth at full speed. It's almost like getting punked or walking on the street and somebody just sucker punches you. Hopefully that's not the case. Steelers can stand their own. And I don't know right now that any team in the NFL is really owning it other than those teams that continue to strive to make the changes to do better. Yeah, good old-fashioned smack down, in your face, kicking your teeth in, old school football. That's the only way the Steelers will end up winning this game is by executing, being efficient, be effective, and getting that ball downfield when they need to, where they need to, and who they need to give it to. Got to take a quick break near the end of the show, but you'll like this. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Life Stews Radio Network. I'll be right back.
How would you like to make the impossible possible? The professional and personal needs I envision for you concierge with an array of services for you, the professional. So professional athletes, celebrities, VIP and corporate executives, Envision for You strives to assist with travel, hotel, luxury car service, dinner and show reservations, VIP services, as well as consumer relations. Envision for You also offers mobile services, as well as organic tan, massage therapy, hair and makeup, men's grooming, fashion stylist, apartment setting, and more. Envision for You concierge with nationwide services 24/7. Envision for You will never hesitate to go the extra mile for your professional and personal needs. So call today 323-300-4592, 323-300-4592, or visit online at envisionforyou.com.
Welcome back to the Rude Dog Show. This is Rudy Reyes. Just have a couple minutes left here. I want to thank everybody for joining me this afternoon. Thank you for the conversation. It's been fantastic having you. I won't see you till next week, but make sure you check this out. It'll be video and audio on the RudeDogShow.com as well as the podcast. So stay tuned for that. And, of course, on Tuesday, don't forget I have a fantastic guest in Brandon Marshall, linebacker for the Denver Broncos. You definitely want to look at that. You definitely want to pay attention to it closely with your ears as well as your eyes. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Life Stews Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in.